There's a financial coup happening right under our noses, and it's not being televised. While we're all distracted by the daily news cycle, a quiet, calculated rebellion is working to dethrone the US dollar. What if I told you that the money in your wallet, the foundation of global trade for nearly a century, is at the heart of a massive global power struggle? A new financial order is being built in the shadows, one designed to bypass the West entirely. And the most shocking part? It's happening a lot faster than anyone is willing to admit. For 80 years, the world has run on the US dollar. It isn't just America's currency. It's the global reserve currency. This means countries across the planet hold US dollars and US debt as their national savings. Oil is priced in it. Most international trade is settled in it. And it's the safe haven everyone runs to in a crisis. This has given the United States what's often called an exorbitant privilege. The ability to print the world's money lets it run huge deficits and fund its economy in a way no other country can. It's the ultimate financial superpower. But this power is a double-edged sword. It's not just a privilege, it's a weapon. And the rest of the world is starting to see it that way. The entire dollar-based system relies on one critical thing: trust. Trust that your money is safe. Trust that the system is fair. And trust that the rules won't suddenly change on you. For decades, that trust held. But now, the cracks aren't just showing. They're turning into deep fractures. The turning point, the moment the quiet whispers of rebellion turned into a full-blown call to action, was in 2022. When the West moved to sanction Russia over its invasion of Ukraine, it did something unprecedented. It didn't just stop trade. It froze nearly $300 billion of Russia's foreign currency reserves. No matter how you feel about the politics, the financial implications of this sent a shockwave through every central bank on Earth. The message was loud and clear. Your dollar reserves are only yours as long as you stay in America's good graces. They aren't truly your assets. They're a privilege that can be revoked at any moment. For countries with their own ambitions, especially those that don't always align with the West, this was an existential threat. The search for a financial escape hatch was no longer a theoretical problem. It became a matter of national security. This is where the BRICS nations come in. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa have expanded, inviting major economic and energy players like the UAE, Iran, and Egypt into the fold. While the full membership of some, like Iran and Egypt, is still being formalized. The group now represents a huge portion of the global economy and over half the world's population. These aren't just emerging economies anymore. They are a coalition with the power and the motive to build a new system from the ground up. Their rebellion is unfolding on two main fronts. First, they are systematically ditching the dollar in their own trade. The evidence is undeniable. Trade between China and Russia has exploded, with most of it settled in yuan and rubles. But it's not just them. By late 2025, a huge portion of trade between India and Russia was also being settled in their national currencies. This trend is spreading. From Brazil to Saudi Arabia, nations are striking deals to trade in their own currencies, chipping away at the dollar's dominance, one transaction at a time. Even the oil trade, the bedrock of the petrodollar system, is starting to crack. As of early 2026, credible estimates suggest that around 20% of the world's oil is now sold in currencies other than the US dollar, with China's yuan leading the charge. Second, and much more importantly, they are building a completely new financial architecture, a parallel universe designed to make the dollar irrelevant. Think of the current system, with SWIFT and US banks, as the main highway for global money. BRICS isn't just building a new car for that highway. They're building their own highway, with their own rules. They started with their own institutions, like the New Development Bank, as alternatives to the Western-led IMF and World Bank. But the real game changer is happening on the tech level. You've probably heard of SWIFT, the messaging system that acts as the plumbing for international finance. For years, getting cut off from SWIFT was a death sentence for an economy. Not anymore. China has been developing its own alternative, CIPS, the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System. While it's still smaller than SWIFT, it's growing at an explosive rate. By early 2026, CIPS is already being used by thousands of financial institutions in over 110 countries. And now, they're taking the next step. At the 2024 Kazan Summit, they announced BRICS Pay. This isn't just another app. It's a plan for a decentralized payment system to link the national payment networks of all member countries, like India's UPI or Brazil's Pix. The goal is to allow direct, instant transactions between these countries in their own currencies, with no need to ever touch a US dollar or go through a US bank. While it's still early, the intention is clear: create a financial system free from Western control. So, what happens when the world doesn't need the dollar in the same way? The consequences could be chaotic, especially for the United States. A world with less demand for dollars is a world where the US can no longer afford its massive deficits. Financing its debt would get much more expensive, leading to higher interest rates for the government, for businesses, and for you. It could trigger long-term structural inflation unlike anything we've seen in generations. The value of US assets, from stocks to bonds, could fall behind the rest of the world for years. Now let's be clear. This isn't an overnight collapse. The dollar's dominance is incredibly deep-rooted. As of early 2026, it still makes up around 58% of global reserves and is used in nearly 88% of all foreign exchange transactions. There's no single currency ready to replace it tomorrow. But that's not the point. The goal isn't total replacement, but steady erosion. The world isn't moving to a yuan-dominated system. It's moving toward a multipolar system where the dollar is just one of several important players. This shift also creates huge problems for other developed nations. Surplus countries like Germany and Japan have relied on the US consumer to buy their goods and have parked their profits in US Treasury bonds for decades. If that system breaks down, their entire economic model is at risk, forcing painful policy changes. For the BRICS nations, however, this trend offers a massive opportunity to trade and grow without being subject to the whims of US foreign policy or the Federal Reserve. You might have heard a pretty sensational claim floating around that for the first time in decades, central banks now hold more of their reserves in gold than in US Treasury bonds. It's a powerful story, but it's one you need to be careful with, because as of the first quarter of 2026, it is not entirely accurate. Recent reports from sources like the World Gold Council and US Treasury do show a historic crossover may have occurred in 2025, with some valuations of central bank gold holdings approaching or exceeding their US Treasury holdings for the first time since the 1990s. Depending on the day's fluctuating prices for both gold and bonds, the exact balance can shift, with some sources valuing gold reserves near $5 trillion and Treasury holdings between 3.9 trillion USD and 5.1 trillion USD. So while a definitive, permanent crossover is still debated, the direction of travel is unmistakable. Here's the crucial part. The trend is what matters. Central banks are buying gold at a historic pace while becoming net sellers of US government debt. The reason is simple. Gold is the only financial asset with zero counterparty risk. It's nobody's liability. In a world where financial assets can be frozen by a foreign government, gold is the ultimate form of sovereign money. The narrative might be slightly ahead of the facts, but it's pointing in exactly the right direction. The story of the 21st century economy is the story of de-dollarization. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a strategic realignment based on clear economic and geopolitical incentives. A quiet rebellion that started as a response to the weaponization of finance is now building a credible, functional alternative to the dollar system. While most in the West aren't noticing, countries representing the majority of the world's population are methodically laying the tracks for a new financial world order. This is no longer a question of if, but of when and how fast. The systems are being built. The trade is being redirected. The alliances are being solidified. You are no longer in the dark. What do you think is the final domino that will make this new system irreversible? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to understand these monumental shifts and what they mean for your money, take a second to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss what's coming next. That is it for today's topic. See you in next video. Bye-bye.